So, you think that your God exists just because you and a bunch of other people believe in him? Let's take a look at how beliefs distort perception of reality. The Essence of Reality explores how the psyche, which you are, creates the reality you encounter. Hi and welcome. You found the Essence of Reality. We explore life here, as in the nature of your consciousness, and how reality actually works. Religion creates its own synthetic truth, having nothing to do with reality, and science doesn't cover it either. Indeed, both of them hide life's real flow. You create your life's qualities. No God does, no external power source does. You do. To see how, stay tuned and come back again. This clip looks at religion, and the focus is Christianity. 2 billion Christians populate the world, every one of them buying into ideas that seem real to them, near unquestionable. Yet the ideas have no basis in reality. How can that be? The Bible is given great respect, the good book they call it. Yet the Old Testament is full of gore, rape, genocide, all at the behest of a bloodthirsty, primitive God. The New Testament is written by mostly unknown writers, none of whom ever saw or heard Jesus. It's full of contradictory ideas, reports that nobody could have known, and historical flaws. Its authors' names were mostly forged to sound important. Somehow the Bible is held in high esteem when its stories were made up by superstitious peasants and its claims are mostly false, and obviously so. Why is that? I'll tell you. Tom Nehrer here. Exploring Consciousness. These insights draw from my website, my books, and many talks to open-minded groups. I first recognized the oneness of things in a fleeting mystic experience years ago. But to see that oneness clearly, it took years to scrape away old flawed beliefs. My inner journey led to what I call clear awareness, seeing how life works without a veil of beliefs to hide it. You can improve your life, health, relationships, success by delving into the deeper mind. There, within, you find and can change inner roots to outer problems. Along the way, we'll expose many popular notions as false. Principal among these is Christianity. That religion seems valid because it's woven into Western thinking. You learned Christian bunk while growing up. It was taught to you. Your friends heard it, and the ideas were built into cartoons, stories, movies, and language itself. But there is no God making things happen. There only seems to be if you learn that and believe it. And that's because anything you believe in seems to be true. 2 billion people believe in the Christian God with the capital G, but another 1.5 billion believe in Allah, a much different God. And another billion believe in Shiva, Vishnu, and Shakti. Yet none of these gods exist or ever did. The mind is very gullible. You believe things that you were taught as a kid and they seem real. God, the Christian one, not only doesn't exist, but couldn't. God with a big G is a goofy mixture of ancient gods all kind of lumped together. The God mentioned in the early Bible was El, a personal God of Abraham. Back then, 4,000 years ago, everybody believed in groups of gods, and El was a chief of one such group. A millennium later, Yahweh had become the preferred god of the Hebrew peoples. He was a grand, fearful war god. Look upon him and you die. Except, of course, you weren't in so much danger. He didn't really exist either. And another 1,000 years passed before Jesus called his God Allah in Aramaic, a heavenly Father, forgiving and loving. But Paul started Christianity, Jesus didn't, and Paul's God, Theou, in the original Greek, was judgmental. He would send you off to hell just for using the equipment he gave you in the first place. Now, a God can't be personal and physical, grand and fearful at the same time. No entity can be loving and forgiving, yet judging and vindictive all at once. Just can't. But Christianity doesn't care about making sense. That crusty old Bible takes all four of those gods, all different gods from different time periods, different characteristics, different names, El, Yahweh, Allah, and Theou, and calls them all God in English with a capital G. The ever gullible multitudes just buy it. You were taught about that capital G God growing up, so he seems real, especially if you believe in him. Even if you don't, he's kind of stuck in the depths of your mind. Ever hear of Zeus, Ra, Thor, Isis, Aesir, Waka, Ahura Mazda, and Parvati? What about Horus, Sama, Anat, Amma, Apollo, Asur, Duryaiva, Aken, Seth, Marduk, or Maheo? Might you believe in Parenda, Loba, Haukim, Kalmakati, Chikara, Nagutu, Dagon, Wotan, or Saturn? Well, you might believe in that last one, Saturn. You celebrate that Roman god every weekend. What's about Mayu, Aya, Wakantanka, Venus, or Freya? Aha, Freya. She's the goddess of Friday, by the way. You know, TGIF, thank God it's Freya, or the goddess of Friday, or something like that. Last chance. Do you know Mithras, Enlil, Adonis, Ariana, Gaia, maybe Gaia, Il, Arjuna, Baal, Atul, Nagini, or Quetzalcoatl? People sometime and in some place believed in all of those gods. They seemed as real to them as God, Allah, and Vishnu seem to billions of suckers today, yet none of them ever existed, except in the minds of believers. Gods all die when their last gullible believer passes on. The Bible isn't a holy book. It isn't even a particularly good one. It's an archaic record of old, worn-out ideas, save for Jesus' parables, which aren't even understood. But if you believe the Bible in its entirety is something ordained by an invisible deity, you've fallen into a trap woven of your own beliefs. No God exists, but you do, and you alone drive your life. Step by step, the essence of reality will show you just how that works. Lots more to cover. Religion creates its own synthetic truth, having nothing to do with reality. The New Testament is written by mostly unknown writers, none of whom ever saw or heard Jesus. Somehow the Bible is held in high esteem when its stories were made up by superstitious peasants, and its claims are mostly false, and obviously so. Anything you believe in seems to be true. The mind is very gullible. You believe things that you were taught as a kid and they seem real. But Christianity doesn't care about making sense. That crusty old Bible takes all four of those gods, El, Yahweh, Allah, and Theou, and calls them all God, in English with a capital G. Gods all die when their last gullible believer passes on. No God exists, but you do, and you alone drive your life.